All right, there we go. Hi everyone, how's it going? Team here, and this is BXJS livestream. And today we're going to be having a look at Tailwind CSS version 4 beta. If you never watched my streams, I do use Tailwind CSS quite heavily, so this is my favorite, I guess, CSS toolkit of choice, and I absolutely love version 3, the current version. I even bought the Tailwind UI, which is really, really good. And yeah, I'm quite excited to see what the changes are in version 4. So they announced it quite some time ago, 8 months. And there's been some sort of teasers and previews of how it will look, but I'll be real with you, I haven't had time to look into that. So I'm quite curious to jump in and see what has changed. I know that they're basically changing the tool chain and improving performance is sort of the major points of, reworking it. So yeah, I guess I'm gonna be using Litlytics as the test project, let's put it this way, to see how hard it is to migrate to version 4 and what are the major changes and major differences, I guess, right? So we're gonna see what's the new things, what's the broken things, if there are any, and how hard it is to migrate to beta version in an existing, albeit small project, right? So let's jump right into it. So we got separate documentation for version 4 beta and installing with White. So I think we're basically, so Litlytics is Remix based, right? Remix uses White. So this should be, question is, how do I guess I will have to kill a bunch of things from here to make this work. So let me think for a second. So okay, let's start with step by step, right? A question, do they have a migration guide is what upgrading from 3, there we go. Oh, okay, that makes things a lot easier. So we can just do bun x Tailwind CSS upgrade. Love that, absolutely love when the devs provide tooling like this. Okay, so let's see, what did it do? Let me see I guess we can see the div here. All right, so let's see. It automatically updated my classes. What did it actually do? Absolute, so absolute no longer require, oh, exclamation mark now goes at the end. I always tried to do that before, so I'll be real with you. I kept forgetting that it has to be in the beginning because, in CSS you actually write it at the end. So that's a welcome change. Let's see, after hidden, SM, focus within. Okay, so the order seems to be changed. So for focus within is now before everything else, essentially, right? Before the after or before, I guess, which makes sense. So that seems more, how do I put it? Goddamn, I forgot the word. More intuitive is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so let's see what is here. So text thread, that is the same. Group data. Okay, so you no longer have to do square brackets for hover. I guess either they added that or it's a new syntax. So we're going to have a read of that. Okay, that seems fine. So that's all fine. That seems to be the same hover stuff everywhere. Okay, what is here? Focus. Okay, so the same thing with focus. Data focus also doesn't need the square brackets. Okay, we're gonna read the changelog in a second. I want to see basically what has changed. Okay, no more square brackets on data as well. So you still use square brackets for some things, but not, so like data slot icon, for example, still requires them, right? Interesting. I wonder what is the, oh, I guess it's, so before it was data slot, like the whole thing in the brackets, and now data can be externalized. Is that what's happening? Okay, cool. So let's see, backgrounds. Okay, so you can use, we go, okay, let me mute that. We don't need that. Okay, shadow, SM. Okay, so shadow is now shadow small by default. Okay, that is fine. Right, so you know what? We're going to go through CSS separately. There's probably a ton of changes. So the Tailwind uses Tailwind UI. I basically used the Catalyst toolkit that they provide as part of the Tailwind UI. Live demo documentation. I wonder if there is there like, I don't know if there's a changelog here anywhere, or Introducing, I guess not, right? So it's probably not yet updated for version 4 because a lot of those changes that the what do you call it? The CLI did is for things that are inside of the Catalyst components. So let's have a look. Skip all of that. I am more interested in basically what it did to non-CSS files, which I guess are going to be at the end. So we no longer need Tailwind config, which is surprising. Okay, post CSS plugins, there's literally just one plugin now, which is great. So it installed Tailwind latest beta and also removed auto prefixer, which is fine. Okay, layer base. Okay, so what is happening here? Theme. Right, I read that they moved everything to CSS, so you can now actually define things as CSS variables instead of having a separate config file, which is also great in my opinion. So is that the one? Yes, it is the one that we use. So gradient radial, gradient conic, background image. It is. Okay, cool. So it automatically ported our custom theme from the config to the to here basically, which is great. The default border color has changed to current color in Tailwind 4. So we added, okay, so there's backwards compatibility, which is also great. And then rest is just CSS changes. Okay, cool. So that was pretty easy. New performance engine. You know what? I should have... okay, let me just reset it. Let's try building and timing it. And whoops, what the hell's going on? Oh, right, because I need to do bun install because we still had the old packages, right? So we need the Tailwind 3 and post CSS stuff. So let's time it. I'm curious as to how much faster it will be. Obviously, majority of time building this project is in JavaScript. So there's like a ton of JavaScript libraries. As you can see, CSS. I mean, we can still measure some of it, right? So let's see. There's our CSS. I'll just open the editor. We put it here. So this is v3. We're going to be doing that. And we're going to be saying that the build time is, I'm just gonna copy this thing, right? So we're just gonna say, hey, build in 280 milliseconds, which seems like not really. AI wants to suggest improvements for v4. Okay, let's run it a couple more times just to get the build time to see how much better or worse it is. 10.4, 10.6, so 10.4. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, yeah, so basically 10 seconds, take it or give it, right? So we run bunx, we run the upgrade. Okay. And then let me kill node modules because it means there's still bun install. There's still like old stuff in there, right? Okay. Once again, package JSON. So yes, it installed that stuff. Let's see if that actually changes much for this project. Again, this is a super tiny project, so I don't know. I mean, it did shave off some of it. So the CSS file, though, became a lot bigger. That's interesting. I mean, okay, not a lot, but somewhat bigger. So let's copy that. And 10 seconds. Let's time it again. Right, it probably isn't fair because the old build was using worm files, while this one's probably had to recompile stuff. So let's use this metrics because, yeah, this is going to be a bit more representative, right? Let's run it a few more times just to see the difference. But it seems like we've shaved off like a second, which is honestly impressive considering how tiny the CSS file is. Well, yeah, I mean, around a second, so more or less, right? Problem is, CSS became a lot bigger for some reason. Let's have a look. App, Tailwind CSS. So we now have that. We got, right, so we got Tailwind typography, plan to them. Okay. Interesting. I wonder why is it bigger? Maybe the performance is a focus, not the build size. But I guess it's not critically bigger, right? So our previous file was 95 kilobytes and new one is 120. So that is what, 95 by 120 is like 20% increase. Not too bad. And then if we take absolute, it's like, yeah, 26% increase in compressed size, but it's just 4 kilobytes. So I guess it's not too bad. I'm guessing they are now putting more into the default sort of CSS output, so it's going to be bigger when you have a small project, but it's not going to grow as much, is my guess. Okay, so apparently incremental builds are a lot faster. 182x, that is, we're going to check that. I'm kind of curious. Okay, so let's see. Well, first of all, let's run the thing and see if it actually renders properly, because that's the question. Yeah, that seems to be pretty much as it should be, so don't see any issues. Exactly the same rendering as before. Everything seems to be working fine. There's the models, there's the test and all of that jazz, all of that switches. What else is there? Now that's the same. It also works fine. Yeah, so seems to be okay, right? So don't see any problems. So migration was very smooth, very easy to do. Let's have a look at what has changed. So CSS first configuration, right? We've already seen that. So basically everything you configure instead of config.js now goes into CSS, which is honestly awesome. So you now have, I can close this. You now have exactly one place where you configure your CSS, which is absolutely fantastic. Love that. You no longer have to think like, okay, did I put it in the config? Did I put it in the CSS? Do I have extra classes there? You can just do that. And it's all CSS variables, which means that even if you are not using Tailwind syntax, you can just use it in your code somehow. I mean, I don't know why you would do that, but that's a possibility. Okay, that's pretty cool. CSS, okay, and there's an in-depth guide on CSS config. Cool, cool, cool. So there's namespaces that you can have. You can override default theme. Okay, and you can override everything. Okay, interesting. That seems to be pretty flexible. So there's all the namespaces. There's a dark mode. Okay, so there's some variant tag. That is probably a custom thing, right? So I'm not a super big CSS nerd. So if I'm saying something's wrong, please correct me in the comments or in chat if you're watching this. But that's so source is the at source clause. Is that post CSS? No. I want post CSS. Is it a post CSS thing? No, it seems to be Tailwind thing. Okay. So export source. If you need to add additional content sources that are being picked up by default. Oh, so this is what you. So before you basically gave the folders, I guess you no longer have that, but you can use add source directive to say, hey, look at those files as well. They have the classes, right? Interesting. Okay. I mean, it did pick up all our files, but admittedly, this structure is fairly straightforward. Doesn't really have any complex stuff, right? And all of our CSS is in one place. Okay, using a prefix. Cool, so you can prefix the classes for compatibility, which is super nice. Let's go back to this. Okay, CSS theme variables, we have had a look at this. Native CSS cascade layers. I have no idea what that is. So what are layers? The layer, CSS add rule, is used to declare a cascade layer and can also be used to define the order of precedence in case of multiple cascade layers. Interesting. So this is basically integrated way to manage nested things. That's pretty. I never used that, but that's pretty cool. It's nice to know that it exists, and I guess if you use it properly, it's gonna make CSS a lot nicer, right? So they basically utilize that, and there's integrated layers, and you can override things on a layer basis, which is pretty neat, and define your stuff on a layer basis as well. So I guess that means, I mean, I define this pros. Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, theoretically, I guess we could move that. I mean, let's try it. So if I move that to utilities, right? Nope. Why are we not formatting? There we go. So theoretically, that should work, right? So it will move it to utilities layer, but let's see. The question is, where did I use that class? Because I honestly don't remember. Refine pipeline, and it is in suggested pipeline. Okay, but for that, we need to kill this, auto-generate, refine. And is it working? I'm not sure if it is. Pros, utilities, P4, so it actually the what do you call it? Firefox actually shows you the layers, which is pretty cool. I did not know this was a thing. Does it show my layer? I do not think it does. So there's like a bunch of inline styles. Media, layer, utilities. Okay, so how do I actually... We're using Cascade layer. Here's what output looks like when you build your CSS. Okay, so that's the output. I guess... Can you extend them? That's the question. Maybe not. Okay, so if I remove this now... No, but okay, so this is probably override stuff, but I don't know if it adds stuff. So if we do that, does it actually work? Pros, it did reload. Yeah, so it did reload CSS. Wait a second. Is it actually loading the stuff? Fine. No. So it seems like it actually ate this class, or is it not? Wait a second. So pros, no, NR. And this should be my should be 1. So we need computed layout. My. Well, there's no margin Y for whatever reason. So I guess it's not working. So we have to figure out why. Utilities, pros SM. Interesting. So, okay, even if I keep it like this. Right, here's the question. Does the apply still works? That's a good question, because apply was the directive, like it's a, I don't remember if it was Tailwind or post CSS, but basically this is what applied the new rules, right? So let's keep reading. Simplified theme configuration. Utilities like grid calls, Z, and opacity, no longer based on your theme, they just work. Okay, cool. So you can now, instead of using the square brackets, you can just pass the number that you want and just go with it. The same applies to data. Yeah, we have already seen that. That's pretty neat. I mean, yeah, it's just a bit cleaner text, basically, right? Dynamic spacing. We've simplified the way spacing utilities work by deriving them all from a single spacing scale value defined as 25 rem. Okay, cool. So you can actually scale everything by scaling the default spacing. That's super nice. I mean, for me, at least, default scaling was always quite good because the people behind Tailwind know exactly what they're doing with regards to design and layouting. So it was very nice to just use it. But yeah. We've upgraded the entire color palette from RGB to OKLCH, whatever the hell that is. That is the first time I hear that that function, I guess. OKLCH functional notation expresses a given color in OKLab color space. Okay, what the hell is OKLab color space? So is the cylindrical form of OKLab. Okay, what does this do? OKLab color space. So what does it? LAB. Okay. And this one is L-axis, chroma, and hue. Okay, what is L-axis and what does it do? So there's some sort of a percentage. You know what? Let's have a look at what is OKLab color space, because that is some tricky stuff. I've never heard about it. Okay, so there we go. There it is. OKLCH. Uniform color space, device independent color designed to improve perceptual uniformity. Okay, so I guess it's a more modern way to pick colors between devices. Okay, so it's P3 gamut adjacent, I guess, or maybe built on top of it. There we go. There's a color wheel. Okay, cool. So this is the degrees are the rotation, and then you got hue and saturation, or chroma and hue, which basically define where exactly you plop a point. Okay, that makes sense. Cool. I'm not a CSS person, never heard about that, but yeah, default colors are always nice. Just pick them. Simplified variable colors. Okay, if you're using CSS variables, weird things like list having alpha value. Thanks to new CSS function color mix, none of that is necessary. Okay, so CSS now has a function that literally allows you to mix two colors. That is, or more, I guess, not just two, no, two colors. So you give it the color space and then color 1, color 2, right? Yeah. Okay, and percentage of the mix. Super neat. Also, I've like, that is like extremely complex and I have no idea where I would personally use that. I guess, I mean, I would just stick with default colors, but that's cool to know that it exists, I guess. All right, container query support. Container. We've brought container query support into core for v4, so you don't need separate plugin. Okay, cool. We've also added support for Max with containers using Max. So what does that actually do? Browser support for container query is really great now. What is container queries and how does it work? Size queries, container queries provide a way to query the size of a container and additionally apply CSS to the content of the container. Oh, so basically what that does is when the container size is maxMD, then the child changes. Oh, that's super neat. Oh, that used to be such a pain in the ass to, like, I didn't even know how to solve that. Okay, cool. Now I know that exists. That is super cool. And that is actually a CSS feature. What is the support for it? So let's see, Chrome. Yeah, seems like, okay, Internet Explorer. I mean, Internet, nobody cares about Internet Explorer. Seems like, yeah, so basically, unless you're using some extremely obscure or outdated browser, it is supported, which is super cool. 92%, yeah, so that's good enough. All right, 3D transforms. Never used that, but cool that it exists. So there's now essentially, no, I'm lying. I remember using it once in one of the projects, and I essentially had to write my own class to do that, right? So now you can just have Tailwind classes that do that for you, which is super cool. And there's also like perspective stuff and everything. That's super neat. You can do scaling, translation, and all that jazz. They also have like perspective setups. Pretty neat. Okay. Use the new backface visible, backface hidden utilities to control the back of an element is visible. Okay, so there's also 3D space transformation. Okay, new gradients. Linear gradients. Okay, so you can now specify, I think, angles. I don't remember if you could do that before. Maybe you could, but I mean, okay. So updated gradients with the better stuff. You can also specify the color spaces now. I guess they do everything in this OK LCH space. Using polar spaces can lead to much more vivid gradients. Okay, so basically just use the default coloring, I guess is the answer here, right? Conic and radial gradients, inset shadows and rings. Okay, inset shadow and inset ring. I don't think that existed before, right? Hey, Dr. Pepper, welcome to the stream. Okay, let's see. Field sizing. So what is field sizing? We've added utilities for new field sizing properties that lets you create auto-resizing CSS. Oh, wait. Hold on. Are you telling me that this is now part of CSS? This is a very long text, and I'm just gonna copy that and start pasting it. And that doesn't seem to be auto-resizing at all. Type text area to see. So what is this supposed? I guess maybe it's to. Not sure, to give control a fixed size to make fits its contents. So what does it fit? Is it like no? No, that doesn't seem. Does Firefox not support it? Is that the problem? Wait a second. What's happening? Field sizing. Okay, so this seems to be experimental, limited. Yeah, Firefox doesn't support it. God damn it. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna fire up Edge and we're gonna have a look here because that property is great. Let me make it dark mode, please. Yes, thank you. So let's see. Where were we? Field sizing. There we go. Oh, okay. And then if I just keep typing. Yeah, oh my god, that is so good. I remember how much pain in the ass it was to build something like this by yourself, essentially. It's, yeah. It's just a CSS property right now. Holy shit. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, browser vendors. A bit annoying that Firefox doesn't actually support it. I wonder if it's like CFL compatibility. It's not even in preview and early versions. What the hell? I really wish Firefox would stop spending money on various garbage and just start actually spending on browser, because there's like a whole bunch of really neat new features that are only available in Chromium, which is annoying because I love Firefox and I love some of its features, but yeah, it's just ugh. All right, let's see what else we got. Color scheme utilities. Ever been annoyed that your app was showing light scroll bars in dark modes? Okay, so you can basically specify different extended, I guess, like, yeah, color scheming properties, right? So color scheme light, color scheme dark. So you can explicitly say what the color scheme for an element is. That's interesting. I mean, I don't think I've ever personally had that problem, but it's interesting that it exists. Okay, we got font stretch. Seems to be some sort of a font spacing. Again, not a designer, so rarely use that. I usually stick with defaults, but nice to know it exists. I wonder, is that property new as well? And does Firefox support it? That's the big question. Font stretch. Yes, so seems like it's not that new. September 2017. Okay, that's very old. I just didn't know it exists. Okay, cool. Learning a lot of CSS today. Composable variants. Okay, group has data potato. Okay, so again, you no longer need all of that stuff that you needed before to compose things. You can just use cleaner syntax, I guess. Easier to read, easier to write. So group peer has not in all of that stuff, can just be written inline and you can combine them. That's very neat. I wonder how hard was it to write all of that parsing, basically. That must have been interesting case and a lot of tests to make sure that works as expected. Starting style variants. The new starting variant adds support for new CSS starting style feature. Okay, let's have a look what that feature is, because this is the first time I'm hearing about it. Firefox, of course, doesn't support it. Cool. Starting style can be used. So starting style CSS rule is used to define starting values of properties set on an element that you want to transition from when the element receives its first style update. Yeah, when an element is first displayed on a previously loaded page. Okay, so it starts from this point and then it should sort of transition to some sort of other style declarations, right? I'm guessing, so definitely not going to work in Firefox, which is a bit of a pain in the ass, but let's have a look. Is there? So I guess this fade in is what it does, right? So opacity, transition all, transition duration. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so instead of doing the whole animation when you press a button, you can just say that, hey, you know, when it's open, the opacity is full, and when it's starting, then opacity is 0. That is a cleaner way and a nicer way of doing that. Again, it does work. It seems like it does work. Or maybe it's a fallback or Firefox. I'm not sure. Okay, that's a good... Okay, you know what? Let's have a look. This was here. Is there an example here? Display div. Okay. No, it does seem to work in Firefox, right? So... is that the same in Edge? Let's have a look. Why do they say it doesn't work? Yeah, it is the same here. Okay, so what is the compatibility bit? What does this mean? Partial support. Does not yet support... Ah, okay, so it cannot animate from display none is the only limit. Okay, I mean, that's not that bad. Okay, so that's nice. The new not variant adds support for the not pseudo class. That's pretty cool. Okay, so just a nicer way to write it, basically, without square brackets and inserting stuff. Inert variant. Inert variant lets you mark elements as inert with inert attributes. I have no idea what that is. Again, that is a thing I've never seen before. I have no idea what it does. HTML element property inert reflects the value of the element's inert attribute. Boolean value makes browser ignore user input events from the element, including focus and assistive technologies. Interesting. So why? So it's, what is the difference between this and disabled? This can be used when building UI such as models where you would want to trap the focus inside the models when it's visible. So it's basically like disabled, but is it just prevents focusing? Is that the thing? Okay, let's ask ChatGPT. What's the... Let me collapse that. What's the difference between HTML inert and disabled properties, right? Both used to make elements interactive, but they have distinct purposes and behaviors. Disabled. Okay, purpose used on an inputs button text areas to make them unattractive and prevent user input. Yes. Element is usually visually dimmed, skipped in tab navigation. Disabled forms are not submitting this. Okay, yes. So what is the inert difference? Used to make any element and okay. So basically even so yeah, right. That is true. So you cannot put disabled on like divs and stuff, right? But you can put inert on the interesting. That is so you can basically disable the whole div. Oh, that is super. I did not know that exists. Well, I'm going to be learning a lot of things about CSS today. So what is the compatibility on this? It basically works everywhere, right? So Safari ignores find on page, but that's minor basically, right? Otherwise, that's super neat. I mean, that I need to remember about that. That is super cool thing. Okay. Nth variants. So there's nth childs, nth of type. Okay, so there's now utility for that. In focus, group focus, all of that jazz. Okay, pop over open support. Okay, so what is this? We've updated our existing open variant to target pop over open pseudo class as well as the open attribute. Okay, so that I guess that makes it easier to work with the models. I am very excited to see how they will update Tailwind UI and Catalyst specifically, because there is a lot of this workarounds required for models and all that just to work correctly without those utilities. So this is super cool. Okay, descendant variants. You know the star variant we shipped a while ago for targeting direct children. In v4, we've added double star variant for targeting all descendants. Oh, that's super nice. That was, yeah, so the fact that you sometimes had to do that like manually for either children of a specific element or like propagate it was a bit annoying, but now you can just do this. That is super cool. Like that's very handy. I have used this more than once. We are not even a half through this. Okay, I've already learned so much from just reading these notes. All right, let's see. CSS configuration depth, customizing your theme. To customize your theme in Tailwind CSS 4.0, use new theme directive directly in your CSS. Yeah, we already figured that out, right? So we already read that you could do that. You can basically override fonts, breakpoints, add custom things to it, and so on and so forth. HCSS variable you define here tells Tailwind to make new utilities based on it. Yes, so we figured that out. That is fine. You can also override the default theme. You can also override a bunch of properties, and you can override everything essentially, right? Configuring line heights, so same for line heights. Text big. Oh, you can also do this on specific text sizes. Interesting. Animations and keyframes. Okay, cool. Yeah. Name. Okay, so there's a reference for namespaces. That's not interesting. There's a variant for dark. Right, we already read that about the sources. You can now point to the specific sources directly from your CSS. Oh, that's actually a neat pattern. So you can basically import your UI lib CSS, and then in there you can say, hey, look here, and here, right? So it's a bit cleaner, and sort of don't clutter your entry point, which is kind of nice. Okay, disabling source detection. You can also disable it. Interesting. Don't know why you would want to do that, but it's neat that it exists. Disabling pre-flight. If you need to disable Tailwind base styles, you can import pieces. Okay, so I was wondering about that because before, if we have a look, wait a second, div, what was the app? Tailwind CSS. Before you had to import those layers separately, right? And now it's just Tailwind CSS. So I was wondering if you could do that again, you know, I mean, obviously you can, right? So that's pretty neat. So instead of doing that, you just define layers and then you import a specific Tailwind subcomponent as a layer. That's neat. Yeah, that works. Nice. Using a prefix, right? We already seen that. So you can say, hey, use this prefix for Tailwind in case you need a compatibility. That is super nice. Custom utilities. Aha. Okay, so this is this what we want to do to make our tab 4? So that is custom utilities automatically inserted into utilities. So does that mean no, that should have been working. Okay, so we're not gonna touch that. I'm actually misread that and was looking at the wrong thing. Okay, so but you can define your own utilities that will be injected in utilities layer and will not interfere with other things, which is kind of nice. Okay, adding custom variants. Pointer course, theme midnight. Yeah, okay, so you can define theme variants or whatever the hell you want. There is the plugins. We already have that, so it's migrated it quite nicely. You can even import legacy config. Okay, that's really impressive, to be honest. Like, the migration was so easy that I don't know why you would need that, but I guess there might be some cases where the config was like too complex or something. But, right, because the options like core plugins, important separator, and so on and so forth seems like may not be available in the beginning. Okay, cool, got it. That's why you might want to import the old config. So for more larger complex projects that might be required. Using apply in view and Svelte. If you want to use apply in the style, then you will need to import your theme configuration. Okay, so that basically enables apply right inline styles. That's really neat. I mean, that's pretty cool. So the fact that you can do that is very nice. There's our migration. So we already, again, if you missed the beginning, you can just do npx tailwind CSS upgrade and it will migrate everything for you, all your CSS, all your configs. It worked flawlessly. Right, there's the manual migration. So there's the plugin. There's a separate CLI that basically does the migration if you need it. Tailwind directives are removed. Yes, we already seen that. There's a bunch of deprecated utilities. There is a container utility. Had several options like padding that no longer exists. Yeah, sure, that's fine. Default shadow scale changes. Okay, so they changed so shadow is now shadow small, small is now extra small, which is fine. I mean, it's just naming differences. Blur scale changes, so same thing with the blur. Radius. Okay, so they changed most of the things to be from like without size to being small, and then smaller being extra small, which I guess it brings it in consistency with everything else, because I think like majority of utilities didn't have like standard version, and there was always like small, base, extra large, large, right? So all of you had base and then small and extra small. So I guess I'm not sure why it's not base. Maybe they have added base, but I mean, whatever. That's not a big deal. Ring change. Ring added 3 pixels, so that's now ring 3, which is fine. Placeholder change, v3 placeholder, gray 400 by default. V4 we just use current text color at 50 opacity. Okay, I mean that's usually works, right? So it's like probably even nicer looking. Outline none to outline hidden. Okay, that seems fine. Custom utilities, we already seen that. Stacking order sensitive variants. V3 are applied from right to left. In V4, we updated them applied to left to right. Okay, so the order is now reversed. Okay. To update your project for this, reverse the order of any sensitive stacked variants in your project. Okay, so you now basically have to do this in reverse. Okay, sure. That should be an easy fix, right? Again, CLI probably did that automatically. There's variables in arbitrary values. Okay, so basically uses brackets now. similar to the var syntax, I guess, is what they were trying to do here. Referencing theme values, styles ignored on mobile. Hover style is ignored on mobile. Oh, okay, so it's by default now. Interesting. Core plugin cannot be disabled. That's fine. Theme function. Store variables instead of theme function whenever possible. Okay, so basically they're recommending using actual CSS variables instead of theme whenever it's possible, and in theme use the, so like for breakpoints and stuff, use the theme. And that's actually it. Okay. Yeah, that was that was quite a read. I have learned quite a few things, and I don't know. I mean, I don't think I'm gonna commit this because it's still in beta, and I don't really want to, like, you know, deal with breaking changes if there are any to come in future betas. But that is a lot of very cool things. I have learned a ton of things about new CSS features, and also about the fact that Firefox still doesn't implement things fast enough, which is unfortunate. And yeah, it's super cool. So if you guys have any questions or suggestions, now is the time to throw them into the chat. If not, join the Discord and ask me there. And I guess that's a wrap for today's stream. So if you have any suggestions for the next streams, feel free to throw them into comments, into Discord, or, you know, shoot me an email or whatever. Basically, I am open to things you want to see me explore on stream, essentially. Again, I'm going to be trying to do those more regularly, and we'll see. I'm not yet sure about the timings, so we're going to see how that works out. Maybe I'm going to do it closer to the evening again, but yeah, no promises basically at this stage. Okay, guess no questions or suggestions, so thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the stream, and I see you